Hello. Today's screencast is all about collecting Muddiest Points on Blackboard. Now, Blackboard is a web-based teaching and learning platform used for courses, grading, assignments, etc. that's widely used across the country in high schools and in colleges. So, implementing some features on Blackboard can sometimes be challenging, such as the survey tool, which will be used for Muddiest Point data collection and report out. Most faculty collect Muddiest Points from each class and then immediately give feedback the next class with a description, a slide, or schematics and diagrams. Now, the Blackboard survey tool is incredibly useful for Muddiest Point collection because to create Muddiest Point surveys for a 20-class semester takes about 60 to 90 minutes. After that, the surveys automatically become available for students and then close for each of those 20 classes as well. Also, the survey tool shows the instructor who has taken the survey, but not which Muddiest Point responses correspond to each student, giving the students anonymity and allowing them to be honest with their Muddiest Point responses. That's the goal of this video, to instruct instructors how to collect Muddiest Point data from their students using surveys on Blackboard. So in order to do this, the topics to be covered are creating and deploying a simple Muddiest Point survey on Blackboard, viewing students' Muddiest Points responses on Blackboard, exporting Muddiest Point data to Microsoft Word and to Microsoft Excel, and making a Muddiest Point feedback slide for students. Now, there will be a second video in which we create a more enhanced version of a Muddiest Point survey with ratings 1 to 5 and interesting points as well, but this simple survey has just one question and will be useful to all instructors who wish to use Muddiest Points in their classrooms. So let's get started. The very first step to create a survey to collect Muddiest Points on Blackboard is to get to your Blackboard homepage for the class that you want to create surveys for. In general, the process of making and successfully getting students to take your Muddiest Points surveys is 1. Create the survey, 2. Add questions to the survey, 3. Deploy the survey, and 4. Collect the data from the survey. So those are the main steps to the entire process as an overview. But first, let's start with creating our survey. To do this, we go to Course Management, and then we click on Course Tools. And there'll be a lot of options here, so we scroll down and then we find the option Tests, Surveys, and Pools, and click on it. Once we are here, to create our survey, we click on the Survey button right here. Now, from here, we're going to call this screen the original survey screen. This is the screen from which we build our surveys. So to build our survey, we click on the gray box in the upper left, Build Survey. Blackboard then takes us to the Survey Information screen. Now this is the screen in which we name our survey, we give it a description, and then we add the instructions. When collecting Muddiest Points for a class, it is typical that you collect Muddiest Points from every lecture in that class. For example purposes, I am going to set up 2 surveys called MP Class 1 and MP Class 2. You can use the same process to make surveys for the entire length of the class. You can also use the date as a way to name your Muddiest Point surveys. So I'm going to give the survey the name MP Class 1 for Muddiest Points, Class 1. Then I am going to add a description, a survey that collects Muddiest Points from students. This is a description that just describes what the survey does for both you and the students. Now, the next box is instructions. We click in the box, we type our instructions. Now this is for the students so they know what to do when they attempt the survey. So the instructions are, please complete the question, because this survey will be simple and it will only have one question. Once we have given our survey a name, a description, and instructions for the students, now we will click on the Submit button in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and we will then add questions to our survey. We have finished giving our survey a name, a description, and the student instructions. Blackboard now takes us to the Survey Canvas screen for the Survey MP Class 1. On this screen, we add questions to our survey. So we need to create the question that will be used to collect our simple Muddiest Points. So to do this, we go up to Create Question, and then once you put your mouse on it, a drop-down menu will appear. And then for the single question Muddiest Points survey, we can choose Essay. Click on Essay. Once we click on the Essay Questions button, Blackboard will take us to the Create/Edit Essay Question screen so that we can give our question text and give it a title. Our title will be named similarly to our survey itself. We're going to call it MP Class 1. And then we are going to use the following question for collecting Muddiest Points. Our question is, Muddiest Point. Describe in a sentence what was confusing or needed more detail or explanation. This is a good time to introduce the spell check function. If you click on this little box that says ABC and the check mark, it'll do a spell check for you on the question text, and no misspellings are found, so we click OK. The next section is categories and keywords. This is not important to us. And instructor's notes, this would just give notes for whoever is giving the survey, and we don't need that. Once we have given our question a name and question text, we will then click on the maroon Submit button in the bottom right-hand corner to confirm that our question is complete, because Blackboard will take us back to the Survey Canvas screen for MP Class 1. Blackboard again has taken us back to the Survey Canvas screen for MP Class 1. We can confirm that our survey is complete by clicking OK in the lower right-hand corner. Blackboard took us back to the original survey screen, and we can confirm that the survey is created since we can see it here. Now that our first survey has been successfully created, we are now going to create the survey for MP Class 2 using the same process. So again, to create our MP Class 2 survey, we will click on Build Survey. And then, as before, we will give the survey a name, a description, and the instructions. So our name this time will be MP Class 2. Our description will be a survey to collect Muddiest Points. And the instructions, again, click in the box and type, will be the same. Instructions, please answer the question. Simple. So now we will click on Submit in the bottom right-hand corner to confirm our name, description, and instructions, and then move on to adding questions to the survey from the Survey Canvas screen as before. So now we are at the Survey Canvas screen for MP Class 2. As before, we are going to add a question to the survey. So we go to Create Question, drop-down menu appears, we then click on Essay. Blackboard will take you to the Create/Edit Question screen again so that we can add a question to MP Class 2 this time. So the question title will be MP Class 2. Our question text will be the same as before. Muddiest Point. Describe in a sentence what was confusing or needed more detail or explanation. The categories and keywords options are not important to us, and neither are the instructor notes. So now we will click on Submit in the bottom right-hand corner to confirm questions in the survey by going back to the Survey Canvas screen. Just in case you needed to edit the question for any reason, like a change in wording, you can do that by clicking on this little arrow here and then clicking on Edit, which will take you back to the Create/Edit question screen for that question. So we can see that we have our single question. Everything looks good with an MP Class 2 survey, so we are going to click on the OK in the lower right-hand corner to take us back to the original survey screen. Now we've accomplished to make 2 surveys. Using this procedure, we can do it for all classes. But there are still some more things to do before these students can take these surveys. The next part is going to be showing you how to allow your students to take your surveys after you've created them. This will involve creating a folder in your course content for your Muddiest Points surveys. It'll involve what we call deploying the survey, which means giving the settings for turning on and off the surveys and just changing the options of these surveys as well. So this will be our next big step. Before we deploy the survey, we must make a folder for the surveys to be deployed into, from which the students can take the survey. In order to make a folder in which we can place our surveys so that the students can take those surveys, we click on Course Content. We then go to Build Content. A drop-down menu will appear, and then we click on Content Folder under New Page. Blackboard then takes us to the Create Content Folder screen. We need to input some information about our folder. We need to give it a name, so I will call it Muddiest Point Example Folder. We can give a description of the folder in this text box right here, but I'm not going to. Under the heading Standard Options, we can give some availability options to our folder. The first choice allows students to view the content, which we want them to, so we click Yes. Our next option allows us to track the number of views on the folder, which I think it's interesting, so we're going to click on Yes. The next set gives us the option of setting a time window in which the folder is visible. I do not wish to do that, so I am going to click on Submit to create my folder, and then I will begin putting the surveys that we just created into that folder. So we're clicking Submit. And here we can see that our folder has been created. If you already have folders in your course content, your new folder will appear on the bottom, and you need to drag it to the top. The next step is to add surveys to the folder. In order to do this, we must get into the folder, so we click on Muddiest Point Example Folder. Blackboard takes us to the Muddiest Point Example Folder content screen. We wish to put both of our created surveys into this folder and give a time window in which those surveys are visible to students. To do this, we will go to Assessments, a drop-down menu appears, and then we will click on Survey. Blackboard brings us to the Select a Survey screen. There are 2 options on this screen. We can either create a new survey by clicking the Create button, or we can add an existing survey. I wish to work with MP Class 1 first. I click on MP Class 1, it turns blue, meaning that I have selected it. By clicking the Submit button, I will then be allowed to choose availability options for this survey, such as that super important time frame in which this link is available to students. And I will be taken there when I click on the Submit button. Now we're going to go through the various survey options, but only use about 5 of them. I will go through what each option is, whether or not you use it, and then go through the motions of what you would do if you were setting this up for your class. So our first option is our name. You can click in this box to change the name, however, we already have a name in place for us. This option here allows you to choose the color of the name. I'm going to keep it black, so we don't really use this one. This next option is the content link description. This is where you would put in the description of your survey, but we've already done that on previous pages, so we don't use it. The next option down here is the show the survey description option. If you click this box, the survey description shown here will appear to your students before they begin the survey. And I like that checked, so we do use it and we click this box. The next option is the survey instruction option. If you will click this box, the students will view the instructions here that we inputted earlier before they begin the survey. I like that option used, so we click the box. The next option is the Open Survey in a New Window option. If you click yes, the survey opens in a new web browser window. I prefer to keep it no, so that way the students do not have too many pop-ups. So we do not change this option. Moving on to our survey availability options. Our first one is to make the link available. By clicking yes, the link is made available, and this is useful for when you're done editing all your surveys, so I will click yes here. The next option is to add an announcement for the survey. This typically will send out an email to your students and will have an announcement on the Blackboard homepage. I'm just going to say no for this one. Our next option is to allow multiple attempts. By clicking this box here, we allow the students to have multiple attempts at this survey. So I am going to click yes to allow multiple attempts, and I am going to limit their number of attempts here by clicking this circle, and then by clicking in this box, and I'm going to give them 3 attempts. So I write the number 3 in the box. This means that I'm allowing multiple attempts, and the number of attempts I'm allowing is 3. The next option is the forced completion option. By clicking this box, the students have to complete the survey in one sitting. I don't click that, so we don't use this one. This option sets a timer for the time that they can take the survey in. We do not use these options for our purposes. Now, these next 2 options, display after and display until, are very, very important because they set up the window of visibility of the survey for your students. So by clicking this box, I will give the survey a display after date and time. So I will click here, and then in this box I can either type the date or use this calendar button here to select the date. So I'm going to choose my starting window, my visibility window on Friday, May 8th, 2015. And then I'm going to my end window time at 10:30 a.m. This option would basically mean if I had a class on that date that got out at, say, 10:15, the survey link will appear to the students after that time and date. Now I'm going to click this box to give the survey a display until date, so like a closing time of that visibility window. I'm going to make it for the same day, so Friday, May 8th. I'm going to click in the box and actually type May 8th this time. And then I want my closing time to be at 6 p.m. So again, just going to type 6 p.m. in the box. I don't have to use the calendar or the clock functions if I don't want to. This is very important because it is only between these 2 dates and times that your students can view your survey. The next option is the password option. If I click this button, these students have to input a password. I'm not going to use this. The next option is the restrict location option. This option is useful if you wanted to make the students log on from, say, a specific computer lab, but we do not use this for our purposes. The next option is the survey availability exception options, and that would be if I wanted to exclude a user from taking this survey. However, I do not want to do that because I want all of the students to take this survey, so we are ignoring this option. The next major option is the due date. Now, this is important because this due date is visible to students, whereas that deployment window, the display after and display until that we made earlier, that is only visible to the instructor. Adding a due date is very useful for the students so they know when their surveys are due. So I'm going to check this box to add due date. I am going to make my due date match the closing time of my availability window. So May 8th at 6 p.m. And there we go. The next option prevents students from starting the survey if the due date is passed. By clicking the box, we do not allow them to start the survey after the due date is passed. So I will click it. These next options show the survey results and feedback to students. These default settings are fine, and we will not be changing these at all. Finally, our survey presentation options. This one allows you to see all the questions at once. If there were multiple questions, we could show the questions one at a time and then prohibit the student from going back to previous questions. We could also randomize the questions by clicking that box. However, we only have one question, so it really doesn't matter. So we leave these survey presentation options as they are, and then we click Submit to finalize our survey options. This may take some time. And Blackboard takes us back to the Muddiest Point example folder. We can see our MP Class 1 survey right here. And we can also check the available after date right here, and it should match what we put in the survey options. And it does. So next we are going to deploy the MP Class 2 survey, doing the same things that we did for the MP Class 1 survey. After that, we will show how to export Muddiest Points to read them and download them. But first, let's deploy MP Class 2. To do this, we go over to Assessments. A drop-down menu appears. We click on Survey. Again, Blackboard takes us to the Select the Survey screen. We click on MP Class 2, and then we click on Submit to get to our survey options page for MP Class 2. Blackboard then takes us to the survey options screen for MP Class 2. Now, I am going to very quickly go through only the necessary changes that you need for your Simple Muddiest Points survey. So, skip the name option, skip the choose color of the name option, skip the content link description, click this box to show the survey description shown here to your students, click this box to show the survey instructions to your students, skip the Open Survey in New Window option, check Yes to make the link available here, skip Add New Announcement for the survey, click this box to allow multiple attempts, click this circle to specify the number of attempts in the box, which is 3. Skip Force Completion, skip the Set Timer. Now, check the box for Display After, and then put in your survey opening date and time. For this second survey, I'm going to use the date May 11th at 10:30 a.m. Check this box for the visibility closing date and time for your survey. I'm going to choose May 11th at 6 p.m. Skip the password option, skip the restrict location option, skip the survey availability exceptions. Click this box to add a due date. Ensure that this due date matches this display until date up here. So May 11th, 2015 at 6 p.m. for this survey. Check this box to not allow students to start the survey if the due date is passed. Skip the Show Survey and Results to Students section, and skip the survey presentation options as well. So our survey options for MP Class 2 are complete, so we will click Submit to go back to our example folder. Now we're back in the Muddiest Point example folder. We can see the MP Class 2 survey is here as well. We've successfully deployed it. Now that we've deployed both of our example surveys, we could continue to do this for surveys for every lecture once we have created them. Now, we'd also like to see how students have responded to these surveys, assuming that they've taken them. Now we'll view the data and export it as the next step. To view students' responses to the survey and to export those responses, we go to the left-hand side, scroll down, we click on Grade Center under Control Panel, and then we click on Full Grade Center. Blackboard then takes you to the Full Grade Center. On this screen, we can see our students' first names, last names, their information, when they last accessed, and all of their grades and for all of their assignments that have been put into Blackboard. To find the surveys that we're looking for more easily, I like to go to sort the columns by, and then you roll your mouse over here, and then you click categories, so that way each category, like say a test, homework, surveys, are all grouped together. So now we're going to use this scroll bar to find our two example surveys. So here are our two example Muddiest Points Class 1 and Muddiest Points Class 2 example surveys that we have just made. The easiest way to view the collected Muddiest Points would be to click on this arrow right here, and this arrow would be for MP Class 1. You would then click on Attempt Statistics, and then on that screen you will see all of the Muddiest Points laid out. However, no one has taken these two example Muddiest Point surveys, so I'm going to use actual data from a class to show you what it would actually look like. So the class I'm going to use is MP 127 right here. So as we can see, the check marks means that the student has successfully submitted their Muddiest Points. The little slashes mean that the student has not done it at all, and this little circle over in this other column here means that the student either didn't finish it or is still working on it. Because you know who has taken the survey by who has a check mark by their name, you can incentivize Muddiest Points through perhaps extra credit, but the student can still be honest because their Muddiest Points are separated from their identity. To view your Muddiest Point data, you click on the arrow on the upper right hand side of the column that you wish to view. So we want to see MP 127, so I click here, and then I click on Attempts Statistics. Okay, so Blackboard takes you to the survey statistics screen for the selected survey. For us it's 127.15. You can see the name, the number of attempts, instructions. The question itself appears at the top, tells you how many unanswered responses there are, and under the text given answers, each one of these lines is a different student's response. So the easiest way to export this data out would be to highlight, so by clicking and dragging over all of the given answers, and then by right-clicking and then clicking copy. From there, we can open up a new Word document. So I'm just going to open up a new Word document, and then you right-click and then click paste. So there we go. That is the easiest way to look at your Muddiest Points for each day. However, there are other ways you can export the data. You can get your Muddiest Points in an Excel spreadsheet if you would like to. So to do this, you go back to your Full Grade Center, find that column that we wanted to, so MP 127, already there, and then from there you click on the little arrow and then you click on Download Results. There are a lot of different options on this page. I have found that the default settings work the best. I will mention that I am working on a Mac and not a PC, so what I get may look different than what you get when you download your results. So when we click the button, click to download results, we will get an Excel spreadsheet with our Muddiest Point information. So I'm opening this Excel spreadsheet. and I will open it as text if necessary. This is the Muddiest Point data exported to Excel. The class from which this example data is taken from has more than one question in their Muddiest Points surveys. So for your simple Muddiest Points survey, the Excel spreadsheet would not have columns D through L. The column you're most concerned about would be column C, answer 1. This is the data that was presented to us earlier in that attempt statistics page. We can make it easier to read by highlighting the column by clicking on C and then clicking this button wrap text and then just wrap text again. So this way we can see all of the Muddiest Points responses here and can do with them what we wish. Now after we have gotten our data in whichever form we'd like, the next thing to do would be to respond to the Muddiest Points through various ways, such as creating a PowerPoint slide, drawing schematics, or giving a description at the beginning of the next class. Muddiest Points are most effective when the response is given at the beginning of the next class period. Also, it's important to use the exact quotes when responding to Muddiest Points because students like seeing their own Muddiest Points and to see exactly what other students have issues with. So let's look at an example Muddiest Points response PowerPoint slide. We are now looking at the PowerPoint slide created from the Muddiest Points data that we just exported from Blackboard. Typically, a few Muddiest Points are selected to be representative of the entire set. It is important to use direct quotes if you can, hence the quotation marks around each of the Muddiest Points. You would then take these questions and address them in the next class period. So it's very simple. This is a great way to enhance student learning, and it really doesn't take all that much time. You can easily copy and paste your selected responses from your Word document or your Excel spreadsheet that we showed you how to export earlier. We now know how to collect Muddiest Points on Blackboard. Muddiest Points provide strong benefits to students because the instructor is able to address hidden issues the students put forward, resulting in more effective teaching and learning. For the instructor, Muddiest Points provide a challenge in addressing students' hidden issues so that they can adjust their instruction for more effective teaching and learning. This video has successfully shown you how to create and deploy a simple Muddiest Points survey on Blackboard, how to view students' Muddiest Points on Blackboard, how to export Muddiest Point data to both Microsoft Word and to Microsoft Excel, and an example of making a Muddiest Point feedback slide for students. In our next video, we will walk through how to create a Muddiest Point surveys with ratings, for example, how muddy was the Muddiest Point, and also interesting points as well. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section, and thanks for watching.